everyone, welcome back. For this video, I will be focusing on placing your tips and shaping them. You want to begin by placing tips over the nails to see what size fits best. Make sure that the tip covers from sidewall to sidewall. As you can see, for my client's index finger, one of the sizes was too big and the following size was too small. So what you want to do in this situation is go ahead and go with the bigger one, because that way you can still file the edges to make it fit to the client's nail size. You don't want to go with the smaller one because keep in mind, it needs to cover from sidewall to sidewall. So now I move on to my client's other hand, but before I actually glue down the tips, I still want to place them just over the nail to make sure that the size is still the same, because there are a few clients where the sizing is different for each fingernail from one hand to the other, so you want to make sure it's the right one. Another thing I want to add at this point is that in order to place the tips straight onto the fingernail, make sure you measure it along the knuckle itself, not the actual nail, because sometimes our nails do grow to the side, so it's easier along the knuckle. As you can see, you don't need a whole lot of glue to place down the tip. I know I used to do a line along the edge of the nail, but I realized that all you need is a dot at the center of the nail, and once you place down the tip, it'll spread on its own. Then what I like to do after that is just pull back the skin from the bottom of the tip to make sure it's not uncomfortable for my client. So now that I'm done with placing tips on one of her hands, I'm going to go back into the first hand and actually glue down the tips this time. As you can see, this is the fingernail for which I took a tip that was a bit wider than the fingernail itself. I am just filing off a bit from the edges to make it fit the nail. Here I noticed I left some skin still lifted at the cuticle area, so I went ahead and nipped that off. Now that all my tips are placed down, I'm going to go ahead and cut them to my client's desired length. So she first told me that she only wanted me to cut the numbers off, but then you'll see once she noticed they were a bit too long for her, I went in and cut just a tad bit more. I like to turn over my client's hand and measure the 3 middle fingernails like this. When you turn over your client's hand like this, you get to see what they see, and basically this helps you have the length on the nails match. Now I'm measuring the nail tip sizes from one hand to the other with the corresponding fingernail. As you can see, I like to measure from the cuticle to the tip of the nail. This is because sometimes our clients' natural fingernails are shorter one from the other. So if you measure from the cuticle to the end of the nail tip, you'll get those to match and look more even. This client would like a coffin shape on her nail tips, so for this shape we will need some scissors. And what I like to do is cut the corners of the nail. Basically, we are using our scissor as a ruler, and we want to measure how much of the corner we will be cutting. You can also think of this as cutting triangles from the bottom corners of the tips. Now that I've cut the corners of the nail tips, I'm going to go in with my nail file and make them more defined. You want to hold the nail file straight against the nail tip because the position of your file can affect your shape. If your tip goes a little bit out of the natural nail, make sure you file that off because it can mess with your acrylic application once you get to it. Here, once again, I am flipping over my client's hand to make sure that the shapes all look even. We want them to be evenly narrow or wide, and we also want the tip of the nail to be straight. So here I'm showing that we don't want to get too excited with the nail file and file too hard or too fast because we can burn our client and we don't want to do that. Again, keep in mind that we are keeping the nail file straight against the nail tip in order to have those crispy edges. Now, once again, I'm gonna go and make sure each corresponding fingernail matches the other. However, this time we're focusing more on the shape and making sure those match. We can still look at the lengths and make sure they are the same because we could have overfiled and made some shorter than others. But the main focus here is making sure the shapes are the same. Now I'm just dusting off my nails, and there you have it. This is how I place down the tips and shape them.